In case you missed the first episode of the School of Morton podcast that debuted just last week, I'm going to give you a moment here of sound from last week's show. Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express talked about the importance of Bobby Heenan on his career in the very early days, and then he went on to talk about a promoter that did not believe Ricky Morton would ever make it in the wrestling business.
What really happened there, this is before USA. Joe Blanchard got nationwide TV on USA, and they showed me on there. And after they showed me on there, I was young. I was doing the Hurricane Coronas. I was doing the backflips off the top ropes. A lot of promoters seen that. Matter of fact, that's when Jerry Lawler come to San Antonio and took me back to Memphis. He did. He come to San Antonio and said, wanted me to come back to Memphis, and he put me and Robert together. After that, it was good, but we got lost in the shuffle. And that's when Bill Watts come in, and Bill Watts seen us, and he told Jerry Jarrett, he said, I don't know what you're doing, but he said, but those two boys right there come to get over. I want them two boys. And he made a deal with Jerry Jarrett that we would go work for him for 6 months and come back. But I knew it was going to be the same old song and dance. So we went there for 6 months. I came back, I walked in the dressing room, and I told Jerry Jarrett, I'll give you my week notice before we start anything here. He goes, well, I want to keep you here. I'm going to give you this much money guaranteed. I said, no, I'm going back to Louisiana. Thank you. Thank you anyway for the opportunity, and thank you for that, because he was one of the promoters that told me I'd never make it.
That episode is available in its entirety at rickymorton.podbean.com, also on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and many more platforms. Welcome to the School of Morton podcast from Chuckey, Tennessee. I'm Scotty Campbell with my co-host, WWE Hall of Fame inductee, class of 2017, with a fresh tattoo, Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express. What do we have here?
Well, Scotty, I guess like everything, this right here, I'll tell you about that later.
Okay.
But this tattoo, look here, I'm broke out. Looks like my leg's deformed. No, but man, I got a brand new tattoo, and about my, I always had one on my left leg, part of my life. And my dad, I was telling you about my dad earlier. My dad had tattoos before they were cool, all over his body.
Inked up.
Yes, and I had to get one of the WWE Hall of Fame, and that was my life. And can't believe the comments I got off of it. Not even from the guy that done it, but people that see it. And the boys, at the show other night, man, I said, wow, it's a coup. The guy did a great job on it.
It does. It looks wonderful. If you haven't seen it, it's on Facebook at the Babyface Ricky Morton. So it's the WWE logo with the Hall of Fame
Written right under it, man. And
that's
then
awesome.
Over here, that's from Walking in the Weeds.
We're going to call that Poison Ivy,
Okay.
right? Whether it is or not.
Come here, let me rub it on you,
No, but
Scott.
I don't want any of that.
Come here, touch this.
Well, I thought today we might talk about a lot of things, including wrestling. This weekend, School of Morton, Chuckey, Tennessee, and I see you're on the card.
Well, man, I hope I am.
Yes, you are.
No, we had a great show here last week. As a matter of fact, you were here.
I was.
I was on the road, as usual, but our school has grown so big, Scotty, that now we have so many students. And, and at first we were running the show, and as our students progressed, they have wrestling matches here, and they bring their families to come and see them. But now we got so big that we have to run 2 shows. Now, matter of fact, this coming Sunday, guys, man, if you get a chance, come out. And I'm telling you, I'm not just saying this because it's my school, but I'm saying it because I'm around. I work a lot of independent shows. And I try to tell these independent guys, man, you need to come to my school. It's not that I want anything from you. This business is what I love. It's what I do. And to make you better, entertaining the people, giving their money's worth, and not doing something crazy and not getting hurt. And, man, our students have come along so good. So if you're out there in the vicinity, Bristol, Greenville, Morristown, Johnson City, Kingsport, if you're out there anywhere, gosh, man, come out, check our school out. Matter of fact, I'll be wrestling Elliot Russell, which is on his way home from Japan this coming Sunday for the School of Morton heavyweight title. And if you follow our Facebook on School of Morton, you can see all the cards, posters, and everything. I'm so excited about my school. Each and every day it gets bigger and grows, and especially people out here listening to us on the podcast. Gosh, thank you very much. It means a lot to me that you still remember It means a lot to me that if I talk about things that you didn't know, because it is our business, a lot of things that people out there think they know, but they don't know. And just the little things in our business. And man, I just love doing this.
It's a great way to speak to the people. Now, that wrestling you're talking about this weekend, Sunday, October 15th, Chuckey, Tennessee, that's on Facebook at School of Morton. So maybe somebody wants to make a weekend trip this weekend or sometime in the future. If you'll just check that page, Ricky will have the information for you about the upcoming shows. So great opportunity there. $5 admission consistently.
Friday, October 27th, School of Morton is going to be over in Irwin, Tennessee at the National Guard Armory.
On the road again.
Yes, man. School of Morton's hitting the road. Man, we have great shows over there, too. Great turnout. The crowds are really behind us. So if you get a chance, guys, we've been looking forward to seeing you come out and support the School of Morton. Not only support that, but the kids that work so hard. Barrett Strout is one of the hometown boys over there. And I know Bear to be on the show, and he's so excited about being there.
So that's at 615 South Main, Irwin, Tennessee, Irwin National Guard Armory, Friday, October 27th. Again, Facebook at School of Morton about that. Now, this week, Ricky Morton saw a tweet from Missy Hyatt.
Uh-oh.
She said, at the gym, trying to retain my summer shape before I get pumpkin spice bloated for the fall. And a guy responded to her and said, working to keep myself from drifting back into Paul the Mall Cop bod. So that big guy that's the mall cop in the movies. Well, Missy Hyatt said, losing battle to look like old school Missy when I look like modern day Ricky Morton. And I was just curious how you might want to reply to that.
Let me tell you, Missy's a good friend of mine. I've known Missy since, even before she got into business, too. I like to tell Missy, to me, I think she's beautiful. She's a crazy one, too, man. Crazier than a horse with no neck. But, it's great. I hope she meant that as a compliment. But you look at me, I have, and I'm serious, I've lost 28 pounds since WrestleMania. But then I gained 42 more pounds. No, I'm serious. I gained like 10. It's hard when you drop off like that, but gosh, I feel great.
You look great. I'm thinking about trying the Playboy Buddy Rose blow-away diet. Okay. I'm thinking about giving that a shot because everything else is not working for me. So
I got you.
I've got the rotund going
hard. Man, it's hard when you... And Scotty, I'm telling you honestly, I really don't know that I'm old until I look at a picture of myself. I'm going, God, who's this old man with a mullet? And it's me. But, because I'm with the young kids all the time. We're training... You're on the road, I'm on the road, and nowadays on the independent circuit, it's all young kids. You're in a dressing room, and I guess I'm the one that tries to entertain them in the back. We have a good time. Thank you, Missy. It's a great compliment.
Another one that came in this week, last week on episode 1 of this podcast, Ricky Morton, you told the story about the time Kid Cash woke you up by calling you at 4 a.m. Well, Kid Cash replied to us on Twitter to let us know that he remembers that well, and I appreciate him letting us know that. And sharing it with the world, too, getting the word out about the first episode of this podcast. We asked folks on social media to use the hashtag Express Yourself to let us know what questions they may have for you. So here are a couple of those this week. Greg Hawkins at Beef Squatch Greg says, in what town back in the day did Ricky experience the most violent crowd interaction?
That's easy. The ones not only that I experienced, the Louisiana territory, Mid-South, Bill Watts. Like I'm saying, I'm going back to the days where our business was sacred, and when the hills got heat, it was gone. And gosh, I can always remember this. And I used to tell Dennis Condrey or Bobby Eaton would be in the auditorium in New Orleans, Louisiana. And man, you got a lot of Cajun people, French people, and boy, they get to drinking and they, and they start to get a little crazy.
That crawfish boil.
But it wasn't the part about them getting real loud. I mean, when they getting the heat on me, and all of a sudden the crowd got real quiet, just like you could hear a pin drop. Watch out, because here they come. They're coming over the rails, they're coming in the rings, they're coming over the things. And we wrestled in New Orleans at the auditorium every Monday night. And it was like that every Monday night. But a lot of towns were like that too. But New Orleans was one of the most heated ones. Lafayette, Louisiana, Baton Rouge. They all got a little crazy every now and then.
Greg, thank you for your question. Also received a question from Brad Howell via Twitter at BHowell3. He said, which version of the Midnight Express was tougher in terms of strength, Eaton and Condrey or Eaton and Lane?
During our run with the Midnight Express, Dennis was the more experienced. Dennis ran the Midnight Express when they're in the ring, and Bobby learned from that. And then when Dennis left, it's Stan Lane. It's not the part about being the toughest. I've told you this before. In our business in our day, everybody was great, just in their own different way. And this is a hard thing to do, and I want him to understand this. I'm glad you asked me this question. But when you have such a great tag team like the Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey, Bobby Eaton, and Jimmy Cornette, and one leave, one just disappears, and all of a sudden Stan Lane steps right in and fills those shoes and never missed a beat. You see, both of them were great. So to answer that question, I couldn't answer it. Both of the Midnight Express were absolutely wonderful and phenomenal.
I want to ask you about a couple of other things. This week, in fact, this past Sunday, was WWE Hell in a Cell. And Shane McMahon faced Kevin Owens. Shane McMahon took one of those monumental moments where he jumped off of the Hell in the Cell all the way down to the table. I don't know if it's 100% factual or, a little craft of the business, but apparently there may have been some injury involved there.
If you look and see, I think he, fell at least 20 feet?
Yes.
And see, this is what I try to make people understand. And they tell me all the time, oh, you know how to land. Well, yes, I know how to land off a 20-foot building onto an air mattress. But you can't land 20 feet on a table that's got concrete under. There's no way that you could do. I mean, it's a lot of things we do for our business. If he's injured, God bless him. But we suffer injuries in our business every day if you work hard. He's in WWE. WWE, you have to take chances, not only for the entertainment part, but for your job. If he's hurt, I hope he gets better. If he's out for a while, but he'll be training, he'll be healing, he'll be ready to go sooner or later. I mean, look at many times that Nick Foley, gosh, man, he's went through those cages and went through them tables and fell, and, I know
Thumbtacks, bang, bang.
Walking like the hunchback in Notre Dame, but gosh, I mean, it's our business. It's what we do.
One more thought on WWE before we move on. Big night this week on Monday Night Raw. The Shield reunited. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose. From what I can tell, that made a lot of people in the world happy to be able to see those guys back together. To me, that has some of that old school Four Horsemen antagonism, that certain fierce fight about it, that brutality. That's what I'm looking for.
What you're looking for, things that work, they always go back to it. That's the reason I try to teach my kids about just the basics of our match, because they get the Shield back together to get their heat back again, to get back on everybody. This is, even though they left and were gone, but now they're back. And see, that's what we did in our business when we went around in circles, especially, like you said, the Four Horsemen. There'd be two different Four Horsemen. Then you come back and there's that, then the real ones will get back together. Now you got the real Shield back together. I'm hoping the ratings pulled way up, because it's what our business needs.
I want to turn our attention to some upcoming activities. One of those is WrestleCade, which has turned into a big 3-day event on multiple occasions. This time it's November 24th, 25th, and 26th. WrestleCade.com has the information. Any thoughts on your past there and this year's visit?
Well, they bring in the top wrestlers in the world. A lot of them from WWE, Ring of Honor from Japan. Tracy Myers does a great job of putting this show together every year. It's a great event. Not only is it great for our wrestling business, it's great for the town of Winston-Salem. I know that they look forward to it coming too, because a lot of motel people spend a lot of money in the town. But we do it every year. It's every year event. Looking forward to being there. Looking forward to, if some of the fans are out there and you haven't been there, man, it's great, because not only are we out there signing autographs, they're having matches all day. That night they have a real big show. I mean, it's no telling who's all on the card coming up that night.
And I also saw a post that Jim Cornette is supposed to manage his last match there.
Hope it is, because you know what? When the matches go on, I'm going to have to leave. 3 o'clock that afternoon, I'm going to have to leave. I got to get on the Interstate 40 and take a trip to Greensboro, North Carolina.
Starrcade 2017 WWE. So you're going to be making a road trip.
Wow, I love this business, and it's what we're just bringing back. Man, Dusty Rhodes invented one of the greatest shows, better than the Marlon Bailey Circus. The greatest show on earth is he invented Starrcade. And nowadays it happened on Thanksgiving night, but now it's going to be the Saturday after Thanksgiving. WWE is bringing Starrcade back to Greensboro, North Carolina, and I can't wait to be there.
You mentioned the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I want to note that this podcast hits the internet every week on Thursday, And today would have been Dusty Rhodes' 72nd birthday. Any memories?
The American Dream by Dusty Rhodes. Dusty and I was great. A lot of things, ones that's coming to memories we can't talk to about right now, but I didn't always get along with Dusty, but I always loved Dusty. Dusty is one of the greatest promo guys I'd ever do in my life, and I've seen Dusty do a lot of crazy things. We'd be at the airport. He knew, man, that he was my buddy. We'd be going down there through the airport, and he'd be in front of me, and I'd holler, "Hey, Fatso!" He'd turn around and say, "What?" I said, "Is that so?" And then he'd turn around and go back down, "Hey, Fatso!" He'd turn around, "What?" Is that so? But it was great, the way Dusty would do that in the airport. Dusty's funny. He's one of the smartest guys in the world in our business. Well, God, he's an icon in it. But, outside the business, when he didn't have the pencil and eraser in his hand, gosh, man, he was funny. He'd come up, so he was crazy, come up with some good stuff.
Part of his creation was the Great American Bash, and I want to talk about that. Also, the training bra situation, your broken nose. It was a very active year in 1986. But before we get there, Ricky, I want to take a moment, and I know you do too, to thank all the people that downloaded this podcast last week. The School of Morton podcast all over the United States.
Scotty, I heard that we have people even from different countries listening to us. Wow, that really blew my mind.
Yes, sir. I'm talking Canada, United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, Japan, Mexico, New Zealand, and Venezuela among the countries, and of course across the United States. That was all on the first week. Now, this podcast is on iTunes, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn. So a lot of the major platforms, find us right there.
That's great, and I'm glad everybody is listening to it. Matter of fact, when you talk about people listening to our shows, I know there's a lot of other ones out there, but I want to do things where you ask me something where I give them the real true facts. It's not some kind of bull crap that we beat around the bush to go to. You just asked a question, something earlier about the Starcade. Dusty Rhodes. Yes, he invented, not only did he invent, Starcade, but a lot of the Christmas chaoses and all these other things when we was in the Charlotte area. And then when you go on and you're going to talk about Ric Flair with the training bra. Well, now we're back in the same situation. I think we might have said this last week when we were talking about Bobby Heenan. When you see me, when I got to wrestle Nick Bockwinkel. But this is the same thing now. And I think I mentioned to you about Magnum TA, and it was a tragedy. It was a tragedy. That's when he had a car wreck. And a lot of times I even think about, what if? What if he didn't have a car wreck? What would become of Magnum TA? Because Magnum was Dusty's boy. They were really grooming him for the world title. And then when he had that car wreck and broke his neck, I always tell the guys in the business, in our business, you have to be at the right place, the right time, and you got to be prepared for what's going to face you. If you're not prepared, you're not going to do it. And I was there. I was wrestling a match. Robert, he got hurt. We're doing TV in Rock Hill. And I was wrestling one of the RPMs in a single match, and Ric Flair happened to be standing out there watching it. Dude, I came back through the door. Ric Flair was looking for somebody to wrestle. Now, right time, right place. Come back through that door. I'm standing there, and he takes me in the room there with Jimmy Crockett, Dusty Rhodes, really. He says, man, I need somebody to wrestle. And he said, I think I can do some business with this kid here. So that's really how that started, and getting that going on. And we did, as the Rock and Roll Express, too. I guess we did. We drew we were rock stars and really didn't know it. And we drew a lot of young girls. And Ric Flair being who he is, he's the women coming out. I just read an article about him with 10,000 women. Wow. But, he was that. But the younger girls come to see Robert and I. And, dude, it was just a natural thing. When he come out and he pulled out the little bra and I slapped him. And that was Dusty putting all this together. You played a lot of it by ear. And Dusty, he wasn't the kind of, Dusty would write programs out, but you see, he wrote the one out with Flair and Magnum TA. So now it has to go with Flair and myself. It just happened there on TBS when I slapped Flair. I mean, you know what? That was really not, well, how can I say this? Because, nowadays, because they script it. It wasn't scripted. It was right there. I slapped him. He hit me back, and we just went to the rink. We just went with it. And man, boom, it got right there, and I beat him up on that. And then that was on a Saturday. On that Tuesday, We're in Greenwood, South Carolina, doing a TV show, and I'm wrestling a guy by the name of Tony Zane. And here comes Ric Flair out. Gosh almighty, here we go again.
And Ric Flair was decked out in a suit that day.
Oh, you remember.
And you two tangled.
Oh, yes, sir. We sure did. Our business is not just easy. When Rick dropped the knee on the back of my head, he broke my nose. If I'm breaking my nose, it led into where he scraped my face. It was all in the same area. The pretty boy that wasn't pretty no more. And boy, did we do business. I mean, we sold out arenas, and it's what it was all about, Scotty.
Part of that was May 31st, 1986 is when it aired. Tony Schiavone and David Crockett announced that your nose had been shattered by the Nature Boy Ric Flair when he hopped up on the turnbuckle, dropped the knee down, rolled over you, went back, came back for some more. How were the fans reacting?
Let me tell you how good of a worker, if you want to say it that way, or good of a businessman, Ric Flair's a god in the Carolinas. When Ric Flair went to the ring, I don't care who you were, they booed you. But Rick had magic. When Rick dropped the knee on the back of my head, Arn Anderson, Barry Windham, all of them had to come and get him out of the ring. I don't know, that's the part they don't show on TV. They had to fight all the way back to the dressing room. I watched that a million nights. That's the part they didn't show on TV.
Of course, Tully Blanchard was there too.
Tully, he, like I told you earlier, when I went to Southwest Championship Wrestling, Joe Blanchard owned it. That was Tully's dad. If anybody don't know Tully, Tully was a heck of an athlete. You know, he was quarterback for West Texas State University. Very, very good. And a tragedy happened when we were there, too. Tully had a brother that was, gosh, he was going to be a great wrestler. He was a great sports, and he got killed on a motorcycle wreck right there in San Antonio. It was a tragedy at the time because we was all in San Antonio together. And see, that's another one. What if? Tully and Gino. I don't know if you guys remember Gino Hernandez. One of the greatest wrestlers in the world, but boy, could he talk. I mean, he was, unbelievable talker. I seen him fight all the way back a lot. You know, he did a lot for Paul Bosch out of Houston, Texas, too. But I got to say, Tully, unbelievable worker. He was a television champion, I guess, for a couple of years over. In our days, you had to be able to carry that title. You just couldn't stick it on somebody because it meant something. Our days, when you were the world champion or you were the world tag team champion, television champion, it meant something. You had to know how to carry the belt. It's not just because you won it. You had to know how to be that person. And Tully had that great charisma doing that.
In the ring, Tully Blanchard had a grit about him. Outside of the ring, in the 80s, was he the professional person that we see today, the class act?
Well, I don't know. I know Tully's in the ministry these days, and God bless him. I can go for that. I can believe in that. Tully wasn't he wasn't the gentleman that he is today. You hear me? No, but I can't be the first one to throw the first stone, son. I've been down that road too, and we was all in it together.
With all the interaction you had with Nature Boy Ric Flair in 1986, the building feud, you eventually made it inside of a steel cage.
Ric Flair and I were in a mini steel cage matches. Before the one in Charlotte where he beat me, that was another one that Dusty Rhodes created, the Great American Bashers, that toured all over the world with country music singers and some of the greatest shows. Man, what records we broke then, too. Understand me, but when you're in a cage and you're wrestling and it's 100 degrees, it seems like, and you're sweating and the rings is wet and everything, and I'm wrestling Rick, and he goes up on the top rope, and he tells me, catch me before I go over the cage. And I'm standing on the second rope, and I reach up, and I grab him by the back of the tights, and my feet slid off the second rope. And when it did, Ric Flair's tights went to his ankles, and he had on nothing but a smile. And then you talking about a pop.
I'd say.
You talking about a pop. Now, buddy, that was a pop. But I had to tell the people that. That's one of the things that sticks out with me because it has to. Here I am, dude. I'm laying in the ring and I'm looking, and it's all I can do. I'm keep from biting my lip off, and to scream. And finally, I think I did laugh because it was funny and the people were laughing, so I got to laugh with them.
That's one of those things that amazes me the most is how people can keep a straight face in a lot of situations, because there have to be plenty of times you're just dying to crack up. It's all part of being human.
Great, funny stories in this business.
And also, Robert Gibson was on the card that night against Black Bart.
His real name is Rick Harris. real good friend of mine. Bart was a big old boy in those days. Always. You care when he dipped Copenhagen, but he just didn't put a dip in his mouth. He put the whole can in his mouth. Still does. Always got that big can. Ricky Morton. I never forget, we were wrestling him and Joel Deaton. We're in York, South Carolina, matter of fact, and we're the main event. Like I said, we talked about this before. There's the A team and the B team, and we were the B team. Joel Deaton, he was main event with us, and when the place is sold out, he was nervous, going crazy. Can't believe it's sold out, and we're having and getting a ring, and the boys had to take care of each other. And Black Bart. So Joel Deaton, he just grabs at me and just throws me over the top rope. And listen, everybody in the building heard this. Black Bart runs in and grabs Joel Deaton and turns him around and says, "Are you trying to get us fired? Don't you hurt him? Look here." He grabbed Joel Deaton and threw him to the floor and said, "Do not come back in the ring. You're not wrestling no more tonight. I do it all myself." He sure. See, we were the Candy Kids at the time, and they had to do it that way. Black Bart knew. He's, "Man, well, you hurt them, Dusty, you got to fire us all."
He knew what was on the line at that point. No, and that was a time you didn't go to the ring and say, "We're going to get fired."
Oh, no.
You didn't do it.
No.
Also that night was a Russian chain match. The Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, with Precious Paul Ellering defeating the Russian team of Ivan and Nikita Koloff in a Russian chain match.
Mike and Joe, which is Hawk and Animal, they're real good friends of mine. And I knew Paul Ellering before he even hooked up with them guys. I knew Paul Ellering back when I broke into business. Paul been in business a long time. Paul was an outstanding worker, but Paul was an outstanding talker. And that's the reason they put him with the Road Warriors. Even though Mike and Joe could talk good, do their voice, but Paul could make that drama come out for that match and talk about that match they were going to be in, especially like the Russian chain match. You know how Hawk or Animal, "I'm going to rip your head off and spit down your neck." But see, Paul Ellering had that good talk, that good education, that the people understood what they were talking about in the match. That's why they put him with Paul. In Paul Ellering's day, he was a great worker in Memphis territory. Even Jerry Lawler had a heck of a run. But coming to, Nikita and Ivan and Crusher Khrushchev, Barry Dorso was an outstanding worker. He was with Nikolai Volkov in Louisiana before he come there. And Uncle Ivan, there was nobody. He was a horse. Man, he was a machine when he got in the ring. I told him one time, they was wrestling, I told him, I said, "Y'all guys talk too much in the ring." He said, "What do you mean talk too much to the ring?" "Because you keep saying, 'Are you all right? Are you okay? Are you hurt?' Are you back and forth?" They beat the crap out of each other. I seen Hawk wrestle with his leg broke, wrestling the Midnight Express. He had a broke leg and cut the cast off. And they taped it up and went to the ring. We didn't get paid by contracts. And what the people don't understand, this is a big show. Matter of fact, that was when there was a big match in Starrcade, the one against the Midnight Express. The show goes on. You just can't walk out there and say, "Oh, my leg's broke, I'm not wrestling."
Also on July 5th, 1986, Wahoo McDaniel and Jimmy Garvin in an Indian strap match, and Precious was there.
Bless Jimmy Garvin's heart. Wahoo McDaniel, I don't know if he knew our business was a work. I'm just kidding. Ed McDaniels, Chief, was one of the greatest people I ever met in this business. I was a young kid in the business. He was older, but man, he was my friend. Wahoo, to be as mean as he was, he had the biggest heart in the world. He'd literally give you his shirt off his back. And my school at here reminded me, Scotty, to show you, back here in my cabinet, I have an autographed football card of Wahoo McDaniels that he signed for me from the Miami Dolphins, and he signed it for me, I know, 37 years ago. They didn't even make Sharpies at the time, but it's back. It's hid here in my school, but it's out. Remind me to show you that. Wahoo McDaniels was something else. A lot of great stories. He was fun to be on the road with. He was entertaining too.
I believe it was Greg Valentine that had the shirt that said, "I broke Wahoo's leg," if I remember that correctly.
He did have the shirt, but so that was back in the Crockett days before Robert and I got there. Really didn't know the angle that they ran there, but I remember they did the deal there. Wahoo broke his leg. This is our business. Take credit for it. Bill Watts used to have one that said, "I broke Bruno Sammartino's leg."
Ricky Morton, I want to go back to modern day, back to the past week even. The Rock and Roll Express appeared against the Gym Nasty Boys in Columbia, South Carolina this past weekend. How did that go, and how was the interaction with the coaches?
Well, interaction with the coaches, which I'm going to say first, were great because all the coaches grew up right there in Columbia, South Carolina, and every one of them were talking about the township auditorium, and even the police officers that were there, man, they could come to our table talking about, reminiscing about the old days at the township auditorium. Columbia, South Carolina is a real hot town. And nobody would take it. Man, we had a great crowd for a 3 o'clock. Well, it was a 2 o'clock in the afternoon show in Columbia, South Carolina. Man, we had a lot of the fans showed up that I hadn't seen, and they brought pictures. And when they brought the pictures, because we all change, except for me in the mullet, but we all changed, and they showed me those pictures. God, it was just like it was yesterday. I remember taking the pictures. The coaches were real good. It was at their high school. Man, they had a good time. I think they raised a lot of money.
Occasionally, somebody will look at me and say, Scotty Campbell, why won't Ricky Morton just shave that mullet, just cut it off? And I'm thinking to myself, why would they even have the nerve to ask that question? It's part of you, as far as I see it.
Well, another thing, it's who I am. It's who I've been all my life. Anywhere I go, I can walk in a store right up the road here and about, Ricky Morton, how you doing? Matter of fact, it happened twice today. My wife and I were out over at Kingsport doing a couple of things, and before we could even take care of business, I had to, because I just don't walk away. I'm one of these guys, if you just want to talk, we'll talk. Yeah, my wife's got me by the arm, talking to people, reminiscing, taking pictures. Doing the same thing, but it's just the way it is. But the main reason that I don't ever cut my hair is because my wife won't let me. I asked her, she said, you're never going to cut your hair. It's going to stay the mullet. She says, I'm married to Ricky Morton. She said, but my boyfriend is Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express. Sure is.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah.
Saving the mullet. Hashtag mullet club. I've seen that too, in that shirt that's been out there too. Also want to mention you're going to be heading to the Lone Star State of Texas, and you're going to be there on October 20th and 21st.
This is a yearly event that I go out there to, and man, I love going to Amarillo, Texas. Matter of fact, if you look right behind you here in my office, that poster right there, that's where I wrestled in Amarillo, Texas. That was hanging on the wall of the building. It's been hanging there since 1978, and the promoter, gave me that poster. And I brought it home. That was way before a lot of things happened. Larry Lane, Coco Samoa, a lot of those guys have passed away. And big state of Texas, Amarillo, the home of Terry Funk. Hey, you know what? The last time I was there, the promoters asked me, they said, "Guy, you ever know how to get a hold of Terry Funk?" And Terry Funk walked right through the door, right there in my seminar. I sat down because he took over. So, guys, if you want to come out, man, this is a great show there in Amarillo. We'll be down at the sports complex. It's no telling who might show up. And I'll be coming down on Friday having a great time. Come and see us.
So that seminar is October 20th at the WrestlePlex at 2650 Dumas Drive, Amarillo, Texas. Then live matches, I do believe, on the 21st of October.
Yes, it sure is.
7:30 p.m. bell time. And if you want more info, Shane Garrett has that for you on Facebook. So if you'll hit that, that's Shane Garrett on Facebook. He can hook you up with the information. You may be able to learn some things about this business that very weekend from Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express. Well, Ricky Morton, it's always great to be with you, and we're going to talk some more, but I wanted you to bring somebody else into the fold here, because there are a lot of people at the School of Morton and a lot of voices I know that all of us, we want to share them with the world.
Yes, we sure do. You know, man, here at the School of Morton, we work hard. And when you're in this business, you meet people. You don't always get this. Man, Ricky Morton, when you watch my match, but see, and you go out and watch it, it's the same thing that everybody else does. But then you meet that certain person that wants this business so bad. And see, this business before, I told you, you have to go get it. It don't come to you. Right place, right time, but you buddy to have an ability. I watched this kid grow, man, in this business. He had come a long, long way. But, you know, he's sitting in the room with me, so I'm not going to put him over that much. No, I just want to tell you it's a great pleasure and honor. Right now, he's one of the members of the Bullet Club in Japan. He's the man, Chase Owens. Come on in, Chase.
Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express just had some really good things to say about Chase Owens of the Bullet Club. Chase Owens, welcome to the School of Morton podcast.
Hey, Scotty, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well, and I'm very glad you're here, and I'm glad that you're in the United States long enough for us to sit down and have a conversation right here at the School of Morton in Chuckey, Tennessee. How's the road and the world treating you?
It's been great, not just the last 3 years, starting with being semi-regular at New Japan, but the last 2 years after joining Bullet Club, things have really skyrocketed. And like you said, I'm home. why you say that's because from July 4th to September 25th, I was home a total of 4 days between traveling to Japan on a couple different tours and traveling to Canada for the tour up there.
Curious what kind of style and is expected out of you when you are in Japan in 2017. Are there changes between back in the day when the fans seemed very respectful in Japan, or are they more interactive? Are they starting to pick up some of that, I'm going to call it American attitude as an American?
I don't know how it was back in the day, obviously, because I wasn't there. They still see it as a sport, and and they appreciate hard work. And a lot of the guys, even the heels, you'll get cheered when you come out, but it's depending on who you're facing and what you do during the match that determines your reaction there.
Who are some of the current top guys that you're working with or spending time around when you're in Japan right now, for those that don't watch New Japan?
The top guy in Bullet Club, for sure, and his name's Kenny Omega. This year alone, he's just producing match after match after match at super high calibers. Dave Metzler, who does the star ratings or whatever, gave him, I think, 4 or 5 5-star matches already this year. And, just being around him and being able to pick his brain, because he's a guy that moved to Japan on his own. He learned how to speak Japanese, which he's now fluent in. Came up through different systems in Japan, and and he's just a real good guy to be able to ask and have on your side and give you information that you might need to know.
Chase Owens of the Bullet Club, how are the houses when you're in Japan? I personally, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some footage and things, but how are the venues?
The venues are great. Business is really doing well over there. We did the G1 series back in middle of July to middle of August, and every house was sold out. The last 3 days, they did it the same building in Tokyo, and it sold out all 3 nights at high ticket prices, because the G1, for those that don't know New Japan Pro Wrestling, the G1's the big thing of the year. It determines who's at their WrestleMania, which is called Wrestle Kingdom. It determines who's going to be challenging for the belt for the main event, and it's the biggest tournament with the heavyweights all year round.
In terms of your time with the Bullet Club, how is it working with the guys?
Oh, it's great. You got some of the best wrestlers in the world right now, and just to be around those guys, and then to be around these guys like Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, who are the sons of Haku, Bad Luck Fale, who's 6'6", 350, maybe bigger than that, I don't know, but just in the ring, intimidating, but outside the ring, they've became some of my closest friends, and they're who I go to when, I just need to ask something or get an opinion on something.
How long's it been since you had your first match in Japan?
October 12th, 2014, so 3 years ago on this air date, right?
Wow. How was the dream born for you? I was that kid in the 1980s that was glued to the television. Back in the day, floor model, watching Rock and Roll Express, Dusty, so on and so forth. But at what point were you becoming a fan? When did you start getting roped in? And when did you decide that you wanted to wrestle?
I can't pinpoint an exact date, but, it was at an early age, and it was because my mom and dad were wrestling fans. Mom, a Rock and Roll Express fan. My dad, a Midnight Express fan. So they were always watching wrestling when they were kids. So when they had me, wrestling was still on the TV. And, I remember sitting and seeing guys like Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man with just their presence and, and Macho's flashy outfits and things of that nature that really just hooked me.
Miss Elizabeth, Sensational Sherry. I have a few memories of Sherry. Man, what an incredible person she was. I didn't get to know Miss Elizabeth at all, but Sensational Sherry worked a lot here in the Tri-Cities of Tennessee and Virginia a bit after her, I'm going to say, retirement, or at least near the end of her life and career. Hall of Famer, great memories there. So, Chase Owens, I also want to ask, can you work, and are you working in a lot of other places in addition to Japan at this point with your contractual agreements?
Yeah, obviously because of the contracts, I've got to be in Japan when they ask me to be. When I'm not there, I stay pretty busy here. I don't remember the last weekend I've, been able to take off from wrestling from Chicago to New Jersey to Texas, all around Tennessee, North Carolina. I mean, I stay pretty busy, and like I said, joining Bullet Club 2 years ago, I wasn't hurting for work before that, but now I'm having 3 or 4 people contact me about the same date, and sometimes it doesn't work out, and I have to work something else out and come at a later date for those people that I don't wrestle for on those days.
We're talking with Chase Owens of the Bullet Club. Chase, what's your Twitter account?
It's at Real Chase Owens, and that's the same as my Instagram as well.
And want to get your thoughts on the School of Morton, Chucky, Tennessee. Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, also you, Chase Owens, and others train students here. How's the interaction?
Oh, I love it. We were just talking about the other day, and I couldn't believe how much time has passed already, but it's been 4 years since the school's opened. I've been wrestling 11, so when I was with Ricky, we didn't have this school. So him teaching me was on the road, at the buildings before the show, in the matches when I'm facing him. If you could see what this school was day one and what it is now, you can see the completely different building and tons of more kids, and they just keep coming in. It's great.
Would you encourage folks to consider the school if they're maybe working a little bit or thinking about entering the business?
Yeah, for sure. That's what I'm sure Ricky said it, maybe not said it on this podcast before, but there's guys that have been wrestling 15, 20 years, but they've never gone anywhere or done anything, and it's because they want to stay in the one area. I like to come here as much as possible because you never know, something could be picked up, whether it be from Ricky or somebody else that has come in. We've had Road Warrior Animal and Barbarian, Kid Cash, guys come in, so you might not learn everything from one person. You never stop learning.
Chase Owens with the Bullet Club, great to talk with you. Appreciate you being here. Twitter at Real Chase Owens.
Correct.
Also Instagram. Is there an email that you publicize for bookings?
Email my personal one at cwastar@yahoo.com, or just hit me up on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or any way that you want to.
All right, Chase Owens, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the School of Morton podcast. I'm Scotty Campbell. Co-host is WWE Hall of Famer Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express. He will be back at the microphone in just a few more minutes. First, it was wonderful, I want to say, being able to sit down with Chase Owens of the Bullet Club. He learned a lot of his craft here at the School of Morton in Chucky, Tennessee. Check it out. Facebook at School of Morton, RickyMortonOnline.com, Twitter at Real Ricky Morton, and I want to welcome our guest at this time, Kerry Morton, son of Ricky Morton. Kerry, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scotty. It's an honor.
Glad you're here. Now, we're friends on social media. I've been following you from afar for a long time. How old are you now?
I'm 16.
And you have a nickname.
It's Moto. Yeah, that came from my grandfather from years ago. Yeah, as my grandfather's a referee in this business. Yeah, they always called him Moto. So that's what my dad just, from the get-go, hey, Moto, come here, boy. Come here. I just picked it from that, so.
There were a lot of shows about 10 to 15 years ago where I would see you running around, hopping in the ring, getting yelled at by your father.
Oh, yes.
What are you doing, son?
Absolutely. I love wrestling. I always have. I looked up to people like the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian. Those are my role models at the time. And so I always try to get in the ring and try to produce something in that manner to perform like those and always get my dad's attention. And then I always get yelled at because I'm in the ring before the wrestling shows, before they're about to perform. But
Well, a lot of people don't know this, and this is a great way for you to tell them. You are learning the craft. You are doing some wrestling. Now, Ricky Morton told me personally one-on-one earlier that part of the reason he wanted to train you to wrestle was also to help you learn promo styles and talking.
Right. Wrestling was always something I loved, and I knew I had to get better. Growing up, I wanted to be the best. That's I always told my dad. I was like, I want to be the best at what I do. I want to be just like you. So I come down to the wrestling school a lot. I train a lot, but I also have a job as a professional actor. I work at different theaters in the local area, and then I've traveled some to Nashville and Virginia, all those good places, to perform and fill in for people and just work on my craft better and present PowerPoints and just getting used to a crowd, getting used to reactions, how I can do things better, how I can present myself better in a manner perspective. So yes.
How has it been growing up with a father who's been an icon to so many people around the planet?
Oh, it's something that you could never honestly explain. From when I was just a little boy, I always thought it was a normal thing. Oh, my dad's a professional wrestler. I'd be in kindergarten class, and what do your parents do? Well, my mom works for ESPN, and my dad's a professional wrestler. I'm like, what? That's the fake stuff. No, and I would always get upset about it, and because it was like, oh, it's the fake stuff. And then no one would understand because they never had that opportunity to realize that, that was their father, and like everything I picked up from him, and just learning that it's entertainment. And I always thought it was like the realest thing for the longest time, and then just getting the perspective of like, wow, this is what my dad does. This is not a normal day job, and I love every minute of it. I couldn't ask for anything better.
Kerry Morton, one of the children of Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express. Okay, let's look around here. There's Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon. There's the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, Goldust, Cody Rhodes. Okay? There's Ric Flair. There's David Flair.
Right.
We have Ricky Morton. We have Kerry Morton. And one more thing I want to say. We have Cowboy Bob Orton and Randy Orton. You're 16 years old. What's the plan? I know you're 16 years old, and when I was 16 years old, hey, look, I didn't know the plan yet for myself, right? One day at a time, but I also did some planning, so I'm just curious. You've got to have dreams, and Ricky Morton and I talked about dreams last week. What are some of your dreams?
Oh, my. I have so many dreams. From, just being a young boy, I always want to perform. That was something from the get-go, is I want to be on stage, or I want to be in a wrestling ring. I want to perform. But now that as I'm growing up and I'm adjusting, I like the background perspective of professional wrestling, from refereeing, from learning in the ring, and then being like a producer backstage and learning that perspective of just how this business actually works, how much work you have to put into it. And then I love all kinds of things. I'm a big history buff, so I love history. I always thought about maybe being a history teacher one day. There's just so many things that runs across my mind every day of what I would like to do. But one of my big focuses is performing, being an actor, being a producer, something in that sort of matter of not always having to show my face, but making the other person look good. So I don't like to be selfish about that, and I like to express myself through actions and, not necessarily my words. And I'm always just trying to better myself at everything I do.
If memory serves me correct, Randy Orton was one of the youngest champions in WWE history.
You're right.
I'm not trying to predict the future here, but I'm asking, if a few years down the road, WWE called you and said, Kerry Morton, we'd like you to come to NXT, what would you say?
I would jump on in a heartbeat. Education's the most important thing, and my dad preaches that to me every single day, as in get your education. And here I am, I'm an honor student at Tennessee High School, AP classes, and education's huge. But also wrestling's always been a big, important perspective of my life. And I would immediately graduate high school and then jump on the road. And, I could always immediately feed back onto college, but that would be a true honor. I work my tail off in the gym, try to get myself in shape. He always preaches to me just to work hard, be the hardest worker in the room, and that's what I want to do.
Kerry Morton, thank you for being on the podcast, the School of Morton podcast. Now, how can people find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at KerryMorton20, and then I'm on Instagram as Kerry_M14, and on Facebook as Kerry Morton.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. It's been an honor.
This is the School of Morton podcast. I want to thank Chase Owens of the Bullet Club and Kerry Morton, one of the children of Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, for being on this week. I'm Scotty Campbell, back at the microphone, WWE Hall of Fame inductee Ricky Morton. Ricky, I want to take a moment to thank Diamond Dallas Page, also Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson for helping tell the world about the first episode of this very podcast just last week. Those guys have helped us spread the word, get the word out. There are a lot of stories we haven't even gotten close to covering yet.
We have a lot of people listen to our show. I got to watch my language. I get carried away sometimes. But, man, do I have some great stories that are going to come out here in the future and that really going to be some mind-blowing for a lot of people.
You have a lot of activity, including this Friday night in Bristol at the Holiday Inn. It's the Rocky Horror event, and you're going to be there signing autographs, correct?
Yes, I sure will be. I'll be there, matter of fact, Friday, on up to about 6 o'clock because I have to go on the road and travel. And then I'll be back there Sunday morning until around to Sunday afternoon around 2 or 3 o'clock.
And sandwiched between that, this Saturday, October 14th, you're making a road trip. You are going to Waynesboro, Virginia. AWE.
Well, a lot of things has happened in the past, but I just want the people to know that I'll be there at the high school. Marvin Ward, his mouth is wrote a check that I hope his behind can cash.
The show this Saturday night, October 14th, Waynesboro High School, Waynesboro, Virginia. Great venue, incredible card, and it's an event that actually raises money for the UVA Children's Hospital. Now, in addition to you and Robert Gibson as the Rock and Roll Express appearing, many others scheduled to appear this Saturday night, October 14th, Waynesboro High School. Here we go. WWE Hall of Famer Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Hall of Famer Road Warrior Animal, ECW Superstar Sandman and Shane Douglas, Axe and Smash of Demolition, the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan, Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant, J.J. Dillon, manager of the legendary Four Horsemen, C.W. Anderson, Midget Superstar Short Sleeve Sampson, and many more. That's all happening this Saturday night, October 14th, Waynesboro High School, Waynesboro, Virginia. General admission $10. Details at officialawe.com.
All the fans, we're looking forward to coming there and having a great time. Looking forward to seeing y'all.
And that is Waynesboro, Virginia, this Saturday, October 14th. AWE has more info for you on social media and online. Also, this Sunday, October 15th, School of Morton, 2085 Chuckey Highway in Chuckey, Tennessee. Main event action, Ricky Morton versus
Elliott Russell for the School of Morton heavyweight title. Man, gosh, our school is growing, and looking forward to seeing it. And then, Scotty, I'm headed out west.
Yes, you are. So you're going to be going to Amarillo, Texas, October 20th and 21st at WrestlePlex there. If you want more information about the wrestling seminar where you can learn personally from Ricky Morton and the live wrestling action in Amarillo, Texas, information is on Facebook. If you'll just message Shane Garrett there, he can provide you all the details. But this is all happening at WrestlePlex, 2650 Dumas Drive in Amarillo, Texas, October 20th and 21st.
Yeah, that's right, and looking forward to being there. Another thing, Scotty, like I said, we kind of been metal today, but things are going to get wild. I want to thank the great radio host, 92.9, Scotty Campbell. Guys, you get a chance to listen to him every morning. You do a great job, Scotty, and thank you very much for being here on my School of Morton.
Thank you, Ricky Morton. All right, check us out this week. I'm on Facebook at Scotty on the Radio, Twitter at Scotty is on, and if you have a question for either one of us, use the hashtag #ExpressYourself. Check out Ricky Morton Facebook at School of Morton, also Facebook at the Babyface Ricky Morton, RickyMortonOnline.com, Twitter at Real Ricky Morton. Lots more to be said. Going to have future guests and more info. Check us out, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, TuneIn, multiple platforms. This podcast is there with WWE Hall of Famer Ricky Morton and myself, Scotty Campbell.
Thank you.
She said, Rama, lama, bama, lama.